Check out the new studio. It's pretty cool, huh? It even has a built-in green screen wall. I mean, what are the chances? So we can make this room completely. I'm gonna do something on the floor here with the sheet and make this our green room. I don't know if that's what they call it. So good morning, we're gonna do a breakfast vlog. Normally, we'd be doing these up on the roof while Jedi Joy's cooking breakfast. But as you guys know, Jedi Joy is in Las Vegas, working. Trying to work, it's tough because, you know, everything's wanting to shut down all the time. You know, it's one of those things. So she gets a little, you know, but hey, it's kind of a crazy time in the world. So we're doing what we can do. We're surviving the way we can. We're just rolling with the punches, so to speak. So this is the sunrise. That's Punta Pacifica that we have the view of. For those who are familiar with the area, next to it is a mercantile, night building, Claro, etc. So I'm gonna make, so I have to make breakfast. So we'll do the vlog while I'm cooking. So what we're watching right now is we're watching the sunrise. And that's one of my favorite things to do here. Beyond Punta Pacifica, you'll see over there, is the Gulf of Panama. It's very hazy this morning. We were in the rainy season. But way out there, you can see the cruise ships and the ships lining up. And they're all just kind of sitting out there waiting to go through the canal. So it's kind of fun to see how busy it's been getting. It's been pretty steady out there, you know. Okay, so come on. Let's go have some breakfast. Okay, we want to make sure that we're in an optimal dimension at all times. So here's the kitchen. Well, that's kind of cool. So the way the YouTube camera works, it stays zoomed in when I flip back and forth. It's kind of cool now that I know that. Okay, so yeah, those are our spices. We don't use any salt. I'm almost out of oil. We use very little oil. Just a little rosemary and thyme. So you don't need a ton of other stuff. The other stuff is good. It's all organic, but stay away from the salts. The garlic salts, anything that has any sodium in it, or monosodium glutamate or anything like that. Sodium glutamate. Remember that? Remember the old MSG? And there's our laundry room right next to it. It's kind of weird, huh? But it works here. It's like living on a boat. Okay. So first thing we gotta do is do dishes. So I'm gonna get on that. The stopper to plug this broke, so I have to. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to. I don't know how I'm gonna wash it with hot water. It's gonna have to be. I ordered one on Amazon while Jedi Joy in Vegas, so it gets delivered. She picks it up and brings it home. So I guess I could have bought one at the grocery market here. I mean, it seems kind of crazy. Hey, I'm in Panamá. This broke here. So I called up to Seattle and had them order in their warehouse in California this piece here, which then got on a truck and shipped it to Las Vegas, where Jedi Joy is then going to pick it up at an Amazon locker, take it to an airport, get it on an airplane, fly it all the way down here, and hand it to me so I can have it. Seems like a lot of work, doesn't it? But it's amazing that we can do that. Now, how do we do that? I mean, how is that happening? I mean, think about it. How is all that happening? Quite simply, communications. The internet. The internet has made that entirely possible. Now, the next question is, how did the internet happen? The same government that claims to have made the internet is the same government that can't even figure out who won the election. They can't agree on who won an election. So you're telling me that those guys came together and agreed upon on internet stuff? I don't know. I mean, it's just one of these weird things. How do we get all these countries to say, hey, we're going to do this? I think what it was is they were all really dumb and greedy. See, now it's plugging up in here because I don't have a strainer. See what I'm saying? God damn it, it broke. So, it broke, and so now I don't have a strainer. So now what I have to do is I have to pull this stuff out manually with my fingers. And it's really hot because I use hot water because I hate not clean. I hate washing dishes in lukewarm water. Does that make any sense to you guys? Okay. Coming out now. So, yeah, Jedi Joy and I are very stressed at the moment, as you guys can imagine. We don't know. I don't know how anybody knows what's going on. I mean, we are really close to the fire. We really are. I mean, for those who don't know, it's like, when I worked a job and I got a steady paycheck, I didn't, I got mad about things like bailouts and shit like that, just because it just didn't seem right. But it didn't really affect me. I was part of that 2% crowd that, when you sent a government, a refund check or a government stimulus check to them, they didn't really need it. And that's kind of like how a lot of people are in America. Like, they have a job that's giving them checks, and as long as they have that job, they don't care. So now I'm gonna do this other sink here. You gotta get all this stuff out of here. You can't let it go down, as Joy says. And I had the strainer, but the strainer broke. Can you believe that? And what are the chances? I've never had a strainer break. I mean, we used strainer for years. I didn't know they could break. And this one broke while she was in Vegas. So I figured I should order one from Vegas. Figured that's what that meant. I mean, what are the chances? Okay. So those are clean. I'm going to try to keep clean. The way I'm going to keep them clean today is I'm not cutting any vegetables. Nothing. All I'm going to do is just cook some beef. So let's go over here. Let's see what we got by way of breakfast. So here's our fridge. So we got eggs. We got some beef. And we got these little guys here. I think I'm gonna grab for breakfast. I'm gonna grab maybe one of these for breakfast. Yeah, I'll probably do two. That's what I see what Jedi Joy's saying. Once you get the grill on, you want to keep it hot. So I'm gonna do two, even though I probably only eat one, and then later I'll eat the other one. Now those steaks at Reba Smith cost, get this, about $2.50 a piece. So that's what I found was the best source of food in Panama, was steaks. Seemed like there was an abundant supply. They always had a ton of them, and they weren't very expensive. At least to me, maybe $2.50 is a lot, but it can't be, because you look at the grocery store, and I was watching what other people check out, and when they check out, they basically have like bread, like Wonder Bread, like all the stuff that people buy in America, foods and stuff like that, along with the food. So they get that, that, and then they add in all the other stuff like the Cheerios and everything. And that stuff's the same price here as it is in the States. I mean, it's not like they make Cheerios somehow magically cheaper. There's nobody subsidizing Cheerios. So here's how we do it. Remember, we're gonna flash sear it in this pan. This pan gets real nice. Pans are dirty from last night because I left the oil from last night. Because I like to do that. So I gotta buy oil today. Jedi Joy sent me some money. You guys send her good vibes, so she gets some good clients and gets people buying her videos and everything, and has a good weekend. Because then she has to come back, and then that pays for our rent and food for the month or whatever. Hopefully 2 months. Depends how good the weekend goes. But at least for 1 month, and then she'll have to go back probably for New Year's. Oh, these? Remember these guys? These are my, for those of you who don't know. Thanks for asking. Because these right here are my, what do you call these? Obliques. And they're very hard to exercise. So what I found was that a TENS massager from Amazon, this one's called Ayuvon, for like under $40. And I've had this one for a couple of years. It's actually I actually bought another one, and then that one broke. The new one broke, and then this one stayed lasting for some reason. Anyways, but you replace the pads like regularly, and what it does is it puts a stimulus on there that flexes your muscles, and then I move around. So like right now, see, these are really nice on my stomach. So then I'm gonna take them, I'm gonna put them up, I'm gonna do my chest muscles now, and it kind of works in my boobs, in my breasts. You know, you get, these are little places where you get that fat buildup, the fat pockets. So, yeah, it's gonna hurt. Yes, it's gonna hurt, and you're gonna scream the first couple times. But once you get through it and get all that shit out of there, then the reason why it hurts is because you have, what the fat cells have something called candida on them, or some sort of fungus growing. And when that happens, is that those things, they actually sit on your nerves. They send messages to your brain, believe it or not. It's like an invasion of the body centers. That's why you can't control yourself when it comes to eating salty and sugary foods, when you have that fungus inside of you. My theory is, it's also why some people are alcoholic, because there's a fungus inside of them that says, hey, get more alcohol. And even though they don't make no sense, but the fungus don't care, because the fungus is just living inside the body. So that's my theory on that. Now, it would make sense. It's a similar theory that we have on bulimia too, which is that there's a fungus inside the addict. They eat sugar. Okay, it's all stems from sugar. Sugar is the fuel, and we all need it. Everything runs on it. All organisms, everything runs on sugar in the plant. Now, who makes the sugar are the plants. They run on sunlight. So they take the sunlight and they convert it to sugar for all the other living animals, okay? So everyone's competing for the sugar. Now humans were designed not to eat the vegetable and fruit. They were designed to eat the animals that ate the vegetable and fruit. You know what I mean? So humans are on the side of the vegetables. Think about it that way. Because, like, you have all these animals that are eating all these plants. Well, the plant said, shit, fuck that. I'm going to invent something called a human. And the human's going to eat these animals, so they stop eating all the plants. You know, it's just one way that the universe kind of keeps things in balance. And so we eat the animals eat the plants. We shit out the animals. Our shit then feeds the plants. The plants then take the sunlight and then turn into food for the animals. The animals then get eaten by other animals, you know, whatever the chain is. And it continues. It's just a cycle. And who are we? Well, we're just beings inside of there. Now, there's a lot of religious beliefs that believe that they just transfer from one body to the next, one cell to the next. So it's all good. It doesn't matter. You're a cow, and now you're a human. You're a human, and now you're a tree. You know, you're a tree, and now maybe you just want to stay a tree. I hear being trees and stuff is pretty cool. They do it for thousands of years, so, you know. Anyway, you guys get my point. Come on, let's check out these steaks. Okay. That looks pretty good. So, we started this channel in Vegas, and now we're in Panama. And that's kind of what happened was is that when you do stuff that's more Vegas related, we get a lot of views because our subscribers came from Vegas. In Panama, they're less interested in it. But I think that other people will start subscribing. Hopefully, they're interested in Panama, interested in food, and stuff like that. But what we do here. So, but it's funny because everyone has an opinion on Vegas. There's a couple of bloggers out there on YouTube, but it's just interesting to see what's happening with that town. I want these to sear real good. I want to sear a little more than that. And we're not going to do eggs today. I felt a little fluffy after eating the eggs all day. And today, I think that's what they're talking about, carb cycling. So carb cycling you can do, but you can't be eating sugar at all. And that including that whey protein shit. Why is whey protein shit? Because it's gluten. Gluten is just it's a plant protein that it's just not the same as animal protein. Even though, like, maybe chemically, it matches. So, yeah, I haven't been able to produce a lot of videos right now because Jedi Joy is working. When she's working, I have to cook for myself, shop, do all the little tasks around here. And I don't even do them all. I just, in between that, then I can do my project. And that was one of the things that I found fascinating about being married. Is that I don't know how, if I was just a single person by myself, I don't know how I would be able to eat and feed myself unless I could afford to pay someone in the grocery shop, or I lived at home. I made my mom and parents do it, and made my mom cook my meals. But the only other alternative would be to eat in restaurants. And as we talk about here, you can't eat in restaurants. The restaurant food is no good. It's all been dominated by, like processed food companies. So that's why everything tastes the same. Even, you're like, oh my gosh, you can't believe that, this $4.99 buffet food tastes almost as good as the restaurant food. No, it's the restaurant food tastes like crap is the problem. You see what I'm saying? So they really downgraded everything, and they've added a lot of sugar to compensate, to make it taste better. And honestly, it's the consumer's fault. Because that's what they wanted. They put them in the room to test. Well, what the hell? Sugar's a drug. Tell you what, let's do a test. We're going to have people taste sugar, we're going to have them taste flour, and we're going to have them taste cocaine. And we're going to see which one they do more of. And then that's the one that's what they did. They didn't do the cocaine part. They did the sugar part. And everyone's like, oh man, I love this sugar. I love this stuff that's sugary and salty. And over the years and years and years, you got, they said, well, marketing, people wanted the stuff that tasted, they preferred this ketchup over here versus this one. And why was that? Because you put sugar in that one. I mean, don't you remember as a kid, the people that actually put sugar, like spoons of, do people still do that? Do people put sugars, do they put like, what do you call it? Spoonfuls of sugar onto their cereal anymore. That's what we used to do as kids. We used to get like shredded wheat and you put a spoonful of sugar on it. Be me. Be me, you guys. Be me. Yeah? I know you're in there somewhere. Come on. Let's continue cooking. Thank you, Satan, for boilful death. Oh, for those who didn't know, Jedi are Satanists. That's another reason why people don't like us very much in Vegas. Las Vegans are there's a lot of, well, let's put it this way, the demographic, you break it down, is like, like everywhere, like every other major city, like 20% black people, whatever the numbers are, Hispanic, whatnot. But then when you actually go to like anywhere in Vegas, like anywhere where like you have to shop or on the west side, anywhere, it's all white people. When they talk about the demographic of Vegas, they're talking about like an area that just, they add in those numbers from way the fuck out there. It's like segregated. It's like the black people and Mexicans all live on this part of town, and all the white people live on this part of town. So anyways, and all the white people are the ones on Twitter and everything else for the most part. And this majority of black people, it's like, they're just kind of, I don't even know what. I mean, the numbers are there, but it's like, you wouldn't think that if you visited Vegas. If you didn't go to those areas, you would think that there's predominantly white people. So I'm just kind of laying out the demographic there. So you have a lot of white people, and a lot of them are, the ones who aren't Republican. The Republicans obviously are Christians. The ones are Democrats, and they're Catholic. They kind of have this like Mother Teresa attitude, and so where that puts the Jedi in smack middle between these really greedy capitalists and then these Christians, and then you have these liberal heart, bleeding heart Catholics, over here, and then you have the Satanists in the middle of it, all in Sin City. Pretty funny. So it's just, I don't even know. Yeah, for those who don't know, I mean, think about it. Watch Star Wars. Star Wars is a biblical movie. It's you've never seen anything like that before. You've never seen a prequel before Star Wars. You've never seen a movie with 9 consecutive versions of it, all bouncing around, plus the spin-offs. You never seen that. It's like the Bible is happening as we speak. Like the Bible is being written, and then 300 years ago, people would just be following it, and people were like, "Hey, man, that's just." Don't you remember? Like you'd be like walking by the church of Star Wars, be like, "What happened?" It's like, "Well, my husband left me, and he found a younger woman, and I was so distraught. I was just didn't know what to do, so I turned to the church of Star Wars, and there, a disciple of Master Yoda told me, recited me some verses from episode 2. Anakin had said to Master Yoda, I feel this constant urge to lash out. And Master Yoda, of course, says attachment is the flip. Be careful of attachment, because attachment will lead you to greed, and greed is a path to fear. Or something like, no, he said attachment leads you to greed, no, jealousy. Yeah, attachment leads you to jealousy. Jealousy is the flip side of greed. Greed will lead you to fear. And fear, for lack of a better term for the force, is a path to the dark side. It just kind of controls you. Fear will control you. So you have to identify your fears to get rid of them. And they'd say something like that, I'm just going off the top of my head, but I imagine if if you were somebody who was, shit, don't people go to school for this stuff? Don't they go to school to be to figure out how to preach the Bible? Because there's different versions of it. You have some preaching the New Testament, some preaching the Old Testament, some preaching a different, a Quran, a totally different books. You have, Shiva and Brahma. You have all those. Those are older even, and then the Buddhas and all that. So it's like there's a lot of different versions. So, where the Jedi fit in is universal. And that's why, I guess for lack of a better term, you'd call us Satanists. Because we're kind of, throughout history, throughout the universe, if you look, there's always been some sort of magical sort of thing happening. With, like, in every religion, there's some magic that happens, right? That's what made it happen. And, well, later on they go to say, oh, if you practice magic, you're obviously working with the devil. Well, what do you mean? So you're saying Jesus was working with the devil when he converted water to wine? Yeah, he was. Back then, science was considered satanic. It still is today. I mean, look at the Christians fighting back on what? Abortion. That was their big agenda. That was their whole reason for Trump and this Ginsburg thing. So it's still today, the Christians still are fighting against the same things they were fighting back 2,000 years ago. I mean, it's just kind of funny, but it's what it is a lot of it is like just lack of education. Most of the time, people, these areas where they don't believe in science, they don't want things to progress, are usually places that are just predominantly dominated by fear. And fearful places usually are in the dark. And people who are in the dark, that's the dark side, are uneducated. And education brings light to the dark side. So these people who are afraid of all this science, afraid of abortion, afraid of the internet even, some of them are even afraid of the internet. And all this fear just compels them to hate. They're in the dark side. So with education, you teach them and you enlighten them. And so what happens is that when you're educated, you don't fear so much because you understand. It's like anything. Like I was afraid of Panama. I was afraid of this place. I'm afraid right now. I'm afraid of the next 2 months. Like how am I going to make rent? How are we going to pay for food? Things like that. Those are my fears. But because I'm a Jedi in training, I don't succumb to those fears. I trace the fears. I find out where those fears are coming from, and because we're on a tightrope for sure. But if I can see right now, I have food here, money back there, and Jedi Joy is making money. So for the next 2 days, I know I'm fine. So I should focus on those 2 days, just doing whatever, and that's what I work on. And so, but really, it's just kind of like bury my head because if I think too far past that 2 days, I freak the fuck out because I'm a conservative person. I mean, I would never live with just 2 days worth of supplies and just hope that I'll figure out how to get on the third day. It's going to somehow, but it's worked. It's worked better than I could plan. And so for that, that's the continued training I'm going to do. Now, a lot of people follow us, I think, because they want to see it not work. I think a lot of people want to see the Jedi slip on a banana peel. Which is also entertaining. Which, I understand that, and I wouldn't blame them, and I'll do that if that's entertaining. That's fine. I just, there's other ways that I'd like to provide entertainment, but if that's all it is I can do is to fall off a ladder and crack my head open. Oh, sorry, I got a text coming in. So anyways, I'm just, just enjoying ourselves here. But yeah, so please subscribe. If you want to kind of see a married couple, living on the edge, trying to make things work. One of the ways that we're making it work, Jedi Joy is working in Las Vegas. What's she doing in Las Vegas? She's an escort. For those of you who didn't know, most of you guys know who follow us, especially if you're watching me this long. She's an escort. Escorting is legal here in Panama. Sex work is illegal. In Nevada, sex work is legal. In Clark County, some sex work is legal, some sex work isn't. And it's all about money. It's not about, they always play the moral thing, but we all know that no one has a problem with sex. Look at Pornhub. No one has a problem with buying things. Look at all the things people are buying. Look at Trump. So, buying and trading sex is not something that anybody has a problem with. It's just more one of those things that, like, what happens is people get greedy, and they found that they could make more money, the government could make more money by, you know, kind of busting the girls and busting the guys and running up this whole system of getting lawyers and all this shit than they could if they just taxed it and made it legal like the brothels did. Or they used to. But here's the catch. This is why it's dirty. This is why I think it's dirty what they do. Because if you watch every movie in Vegas, hard pressed to find a movie where you don't have a sex worker who's the main part of the story, as if, you know, and she's not a criminal. It's just like, without her, she couldn't have, usually she saves the day. You know, there's some sex work, it's just common to have sex workers, you know, so if you watch movies, you assume that it was legal. Secondly, it's legal in most of Nevada, at least the spread out areas. Not the populated areas, but the spread out areas. So the wider areas, it's legal, okay? So the average reasonable person would assume, if they just watched TV, they saw the ads, and then here's the catcher. And they show up on the strip, and they see the billboards going by advertising escorts. Call this number, direct to your room. All that combined makes a person, including the girls, who are just turning 18, 19, saying, what should I do, especially these days with the shutdown, what should I do for jobs? You know, they see all this stuff, and then you say, oh, I go work for the escort agency. They can literally go work for an escort agency that's running those billboards. So, the average reasonable person would assume that sex work, prostitution, is legal in Clark County because they allow the escort agencies to run ads. They allow the movies to promote it, and et cetera, et cetera. And plus, why wouldn't it be? It's Las Vegas, right? It should be. So that's one of the draws why people go there, because you can gamble. It's Sin City. You can gamble, you can have sex, you can get married, you can do drugs, you can do whatever. You know, you get weed. It's Sin City. So why is sex work illegal is because, you know, the sheriff, Lombardo, and it's a criminal organization over there. Just so you know, I don't know if you guys knew that. It's a real tight-knit group, and they're just old relics. It's like when the mob got kicked out of Vegas, what did the guys do? They all got jobs as cops, and now they're all promoted, now they're all running the place. And that's why the whole town is just, you know, every day you hear something new. Especially coming out of that department. And it's never an apology. So I've been tracking them for, what, 5 years now. I mean, there's just so many, just story after story. And if you connect the dots, it's very obvious what the problem is. Anyways, well, I digress. Sorry. You see, I have a lot in my head. And that's one of the things I'm passionate about, is the equality and things that happen in Vegas. And it's just, I think these are the things that made Las Vegas, why Las Vegas is still suffering, I think largely is due to the fact that people like Joe Lombardo, people like the mayor and his wife, are all doing the same things they've always done. They haven't changed anything in 20 years. But what they are starting to do is starting to pass laws, like, they just passed a law making it illegal to feed birds in parks. I mean, 3 years ago they passed a law making it illegal to feed pigeons, and then October 1st happened. And it's just been downhill since. You know, embezzlements and steals, you know, it's like the stadium, I mean, all sorts of stuff. But they persevere, they make it through every little hurdle. They've had sign after sign, including locusts. Remember that? Remember the grasshopper invasion? They've had earthquakes. They've had snowstorms. They even had pigeons with hats coming down and say, hey man, cool it, you greedy sons of bitches. Can't starve the birds because they pooped on your car. That's just ridiculous. You don't like birds, move the fuck out of the desert. Stop putting, you know, big oases there. Anyway, but then that wasn't enough. So they keep doing it. Then you have a global shutdown. They complete shutdown. Yet they still go to pass a law on November 20th. 2020 goes into effect that you cannot feed birds in parks in Clark County, or you'll be fined. If you're feeding pigeons, they put you in jail. But if you're caught feeding birds, they're going to fine you. Now let me ask you a question. And the reason why is because they didn't like all the poop. First of all, the poop's biodegradable. So, you know, you have an issue with trash. Why didn't you go down the strip? There's a lot of trash down there. Go to the landfills. You know, poop is just biodegradable. You might not like it in your park because you think it's dirty, but you're in a desert and you put a big waterway there. What did you think would happen? So, that's that. And the reason why I bring that stuff up is because they passed another law. They said, Las Vegas said it's illegal to be homeless. You're not allowed to be on the public sidewalks. You can't just stand there. You can't sit there. You can't just sit there and sleep. You have to be moving along anywhere downtown. If you're homeless, you have nowhere to go, they will put you in jail. Well, that's just an attack on poor people. An attack on people down and out, especially on public, you know, U.S. Constitution sort of United States land. Now they got around the 8th Amendment by doing a simple clause saying, if we have shelters available where you can go stay and you're not staying there, you're going to jail. So you have to be in a shelter, you have to be in a house. You don't have a house, you have to have a shelter. Be registered there. You don't have that, and the police catch you, they throw you in jail. And that law was passed on November 19th, 2019. I don't know if that was the exact date, but you know, it does sound pretty cool if it was, wasn't it? Just kind of popped in my head. Okay, these are looking pretty good. So I want to take this out, and then Joy texted me and said, "Did you turn off the stove? Did you turn off the stove?" She's so funny that way. Yeah, come on, let's take a look. See what we got. I miss Joy. You know, she does a lot for me, and you know what? All this stuff she tells me that drives me crazy comes in really handy. Like I remember it. Like I was at the store, I was going to buy a sponge. I was like, wait, do we have sponges? I remember she told me, she tells me everything. She said, I got Chore Boy sponges underneath the sink. And she laughed because we used to use the Chore Boy sponges, or the copper ones back when we used to party a little bit. So, okay, how's that looking? So what we're gonna have here is beef and bone marrow, whatever you want to call it. That's the bone marrow, and this is the beef. Thanks for watching, guys.